How's it going, everyone? How you doing? This is Sujan Patel from Mailshake. I got Sangram here from Terminus. Very, very excited to talk to you. Uh, Selfishly, I want to get better at ABM. I have my own definition of what it is or interpretation. We actually do this a lot. So at our agency, and who better to talk to than the author of two books on ABM and a company that does just this. So welcome. Um, for those of the people who don't know you, Simon, would you mind just giving us a quick intro on what you do, who you are, whatnot?
Absolutely, man. So thanks for having me. It's fun doing these things because it allows me to kind of vent a little bit and also empathize with what you just said. Is like I have my own definition of ABM. If I put a penny for that, like I think I would be a millionaire by now because everybody has it, just like everybody has a definition for marketing. But for the most people who don't know me, probably the most relevant information is I ran marketing at Pardot. We got acquired by ExactTarget and then Salesforce for about $2.5 billion. That was like the biggest tech acquisition that happened a few years ago. And I ended up spending some time at Salesforce as a result of that acquisition and learned so much behind the scenes around how Mark Benioff and this iconic brand Salesforce operates now. So anyway, that's kind of my history. And then saw this problem kind of staring straight at me. That it actually happened where my head of sales came to me one day and said, "Hey, look, last month was awesome. You guys crushed it. You got more leads than we ever got. Can you just get 1,000 more leads next month?" And I kind of just sunk in my seat because I felt like, what do we think? Do we have this unlimited supply of leads just waiting to be cashed? Like, what's going on? Why don't we focus on pipeline velocity? Why don't we focus on converting more of these leads into customers? All that to say is that led to the founding of Terminus, which whole purpose is around solving this problem that Forrester put out there in 2015, which is less than 1% of the leads that marketing and sales generate turn into customers. Let me just say that again for people who hear that. 99% of the stuff we create is shit, and that doesn't drive revenue. And when they did that study with hundreds and thousands of companies, that made me realize that is the problem. We are putting too much at the top. We are screwing up the whole process. We have more process in place to qualify people. Why not just flip it? So Terminus is a company that does a lot of this. Then we started also Flip My Funnel, which is just a funnel upside down. Now we have a conference that we do, a podcast that we do on a daily basis, so people can check that out. And just learning every day, how do we do better marketing? So to your point, ABM honestly is nothing but better marketing and sales. Like that would be my definition for it.
Absolutely. I think it's a more tight-knit, more controllable, direct to your customer, right? So there's a lot less waste than that, like 99%, right? I feel like marketing, you're doing a lot of things. You're hoping to get in front of the right customer based off the research, but that's not always the case. And I think with ABM, it's more controllable, right?
Yeah, it's almost like, so I'll give you very classic. I put this on LinkedIn a few days ago and it just blew up. This idea that I asked how many companies, just go ask, be honest with yourself and ask this question, or go ask your head of sales or head of marketing this question: what does our total addressable market looks like? And just pause and just stare at them, right? Or stare at yourself in a mirror. The reality is, I would say almost 90% of the people have no idea what their total addressable market looks like, meaning how many people could you really sell and serve in this month or this quarter or this year? And if you really dig in, especially for the people who are in B2B, there are probably 1,000 companies that you can actually sell this year because it makes sense based on what their needs are and what you can serve based on what your product is. So if you start focusing on that, then out of those 1,000, maybe only 300 are in the vertical that you actually excel in. And within those 300, maybe only 200 are in maybe in the region that you sell, North America or international, whatever that means. Within that, maybe there are 100 companies that you feel like through LinkedIn and others have connections to get introductions and things like that. So if you whittle it down, it's really the 50 deals. If you close those 50 deals this month, you're actually going to be very good in terms of revenue for your organization. So I think we spend too much time looking at everything and in hopes of getting 1%, as opposed to trying to really go after 100 and get like 10%, 30% of that.
Right. So that's where that kind of flip my funnel comes around, right? Where it's instead of trying to focus on like those thousands that you think through conventional marketing go down the funnel and then some sales, it would turn into 50 or 100 viable prospects. Just go after the 50 or 100 right then and there.
Yeah.
Spend more time, more depth on that. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example for this, right? Like, I think a lot of people would say, okay, that sounds great, man. That sounds like, yeah, that's how it should be, right? But why don't we do it? Well, we don't do it because we get these dopamine shots of leads and conversions that we all need every day. So we have this, like the CEO, the CFO, they have these Excel spreadsheets with dopamine shots kind of pulled into that. But the reality really comes down to this. If, for example, and I'll give an example of a company called Snowflake. It's one of the fastest growing company right now in SaaS. They're going to be $1 billion valuation. They are literally like having like 50 or 100 people start every month. They're going that fast. And they are doing, the marketing team has inbound marketing and ABM. So I want to make sure that we talk about that too. A lot of people think, oh, does that mean inbound is dead? No. If you're getting inbound that is qualified, they're typically going to close faster because they know about you, your brand. But typically those deal sizes are smaller too. That is the difference between inbound and ABM. ABM is where you proactively go after the companies and people that you want to bring in. So I want to make sure that if we want to go into Q&A later on what's the difference between inbound and ABM, we totally do that. I don't want people to confuse that part. But within this, for Snowflake, for example, they are creating for the companies they want to go after. They have one single ad that takes people to one single landing page. And then they are retargeted when people come to that website to one type of message with no gated content whatsoever, one type of direct mail for them, and a field marketing event or activity that brings them together at a dinner table.
Got it. It's really, I think it's really all around a singular message for a very specific or concentration of customers, potential customers, right?
Totally. And it changed
pretty much
the win rate, right? The win rate, for example, another company, Thomson Reuters, who does and going to be speaking at the conference in Boston happening soon. Their win rate, Sujan, is 95%. Like, take that for a second and just think about that. And they talked about it in the podcast they're going to be presenting. And I'm like, that's unbelievable. Tell me a company single who could say they have a 95% win rate on the deals they're working on, right? It's unheard of. It's impossible unless you go to this like monomaniacal one-to-one level where you just know enough about them and you know that you're going to make this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's back up a couple steps because I think we jumped in and I'm obviously very excited about this. You have a book coming out.
Yes.
Right? Let's show that off. So ABM is B2B, right?
And the whole that's why B2B marketing and sales is broken and how to fix it.
Awesome. So it's out early September. Check it out. We'll put a link in the comments and show notes here. Also, I'll link to your podcast, your event, Flip My Funnel, and obviously your company and whatnot. But what I want to ask you, just kind of a very basic question.
Yeah.
Where does account-based marketing fit, and when does it not? I think so many people try to make it work. But for example, Mailshake, I don't think we can do account-based marketing. Our LTV, our economics just don't support it. So I'll leave that to you. When does it work?
You're right. Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. I mean, it is a good idea only from a premise of if it makes a good business sense, right? Like it's two different things. So for example, if your deal size is less than 50K today, and if your sales cycle is more than, if the deal size is greater than 50K, if your number of people involved in the decision-making process is, let's say 5-6 people or more, and if it takes typically 6 to 8 months for you to close a deal, that's what ABM is for. Because that means you need to spend so much more time. It's going to be a game of racing against time. There will be competitive bids, and the process is, you're going to probably have great competitors at that time, but it's really going to be about trust. and brand and the fact that they can be a long-term customer of yours. If you have $50,000 over worth in a deal, then I think it makes a ton of sense to do ABM. If it's less than that, let's say you're selling something that is like Calendly, which is a calendaring application that just sets up meetings, or if it's just a landing page, Unbounce, for example, or something like that. I think if it's $10 or $100 or 200, 1,000, it will be, to your point, counterproductive and financially not great. So I think it totally is ACV driven.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think, and that's where a lot of folks fail. It's like you can't just take I would call ABM an emerging channel.
Yeah.
That and then just say it works for everybody, right?
No,
you can't apply.
It actually will fail miserably.
Yeah. I mean, I think about this, even if it works, how many customers are you gonna get? Like if Mailshake got 50 customers or 100 customers next month, we would be counting that as a huge failure, because our website drives hundreds and hundreds of customers through the door through marketing, right? And so that's something really important to know. But so let's talk about okay, so ABM 50K deal size value or greater.
But let me add there a little bit, Sujin, because I think so. Here's where it actually becomes really interesting. So a company like yours, where there are a ton of inbound that's already happening, which is fantastic. It makes sense for your business model. At some point, let's say you want to start upselling to a core set of companies within those customers and saying that, you know what, these companies, we can serve them more. Let's create this add-on product just for this company. You are doing ABM at that point, because what you're now doing is segmenting from your 1,000 customers to these 50 customers, saying these customers can actually grow really big with us and we can grow really big with them. Let's just essentially try to sell them add-on services like X, Y, and Z. If you are doing that, if any company is where 80% of the revenue comes from 20% of the customers, those kind of scenarios, the upsell, cross-sell market from account-based perspective is huge. So I want to make sure we address that too.
Yeah, so I want to make sure, because a lot of folks joining, I think, are new to ABM or trying to make ABM work within their organization, or they are just getting started, right? So maybe it's kind of working. So let's tackle the okay, I want to start to narrow down my prospect list, or people here, again, Mailshake brings in a lot of sales folks and people doing prospecting in the hundreds, thousands range. So how do you go from that size to 100 people that would fit? How do you start that dwindling down process?
Yeah, I would say that is probably the most, almost the Achilles heel is really the targeting, because if you get that wrong, then to your point, everything else won't matter. The way I've seen companies do really, really well is literally looking at if let's say you already have a customer base and you know that, you're really good at high tech in this particular vertical, and within that you're really good in maybe also in financial services, then go and find similar companies just like that using Discover.org or Data Nice or any of these data providers. They will give you lookalikes, or you can use Bombora as another tool that gives you intent signals for things that you want. You can start creating a target list of companies that look just like your best fit customers. And that is a really core part, is the best fit customers where you start. The other part, if you are not in the targeting phase and you're still struggling with figuring out, we sell to everybody in so-and-so. So they're like thousands of companies. And I hear that all the time. I'm like, okay, fine. You know what? Maybe you need to fix that problem, but that's not what we're here to do. Go and look at your pipeline today. And in your pipeline, every single deal hopefully is a deal that they're trying to buy from either you or your competitor. That is the place to put ABM in place, because hopefully they're not 10,000 of them. There would be a few number of them because they're in your pipeline. There's qualification happen, and see if you can drive pipeline velocity. I see that as a big use case. So I typically advise most companies when they're trying to do ABM, and if somebody's like, I don't know if ABM is right for me, I can get my organization to shift gears, I don't know if I can convince everybody, I wouldn't even start with acquisition at all. I would start with pipeline velocity, because your CEO, your CFO, your CRO, everybody's focused on that, right? And say, hey, how about we just figure out a way to move these deals faster? How about we air cover to all the decision makers in this deal that are happening right now so that our brand shows up really big. So that's where you can use Terminus or a bunch of advertising solutions. How about we create an event or a direct mail just for these particular companies because they're in the pipeline and they're going to close within 30 days. And they're going to buy from us or competitor. We need to focus on them. Let's just get all in on that. So in those scenarios, I think you start seeing real success. And I think then you can go, oh, let's just apply the same principles to targeting. But I wouldn't even start an acquisition if you feel as an organization you're not ready for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you a concrete example. So Web Profits, that's my marketing agency. We can help any type of company, e-commerce, CPG, lead generation, fintech, whatever, right? So it's like you said, like, yeah, I can help a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
So that's not useful. So I was like, sales guy, like this is me talking to our sales guy. Like, he's like, yeah, I can help everybody. I'm like, I don't care. That's a bullshit answer, right? Let's get deeper. Who have we helped that we've done the best possible job? And I'm like, no, like the top 5 clients. Don't even worry about the categories. And then we said, oh, actually, e-commerce and CPG were really, really great. And then our highest LTV came from fintech. I'm sharing information. If you're an agency owner, take this, write notes, copy us, whatever. It's up for grabs. This shouldn't be rocket science. But fintech and lead generation in certain verticals were the best thing. And so we're like, okay, let's focus on CPG, e-commerce, fintech, and let's see where we can find traction. So we created whole slew of depth of campaigns that included direct mail, advertising, ebooks, content, videos, this whole funnel. And we tried it for each different vertical. Turns out e-commerce, how many agencies are targeting e-commerce? All of them. Everybody's targeting e-commerce. Super competitive. We just couldn't get any traction to stand out. Fintech, crushed it. There's a lot of fintech companies. And then we even went geographical. So like, let's go target fintech companies in LA. And then fintech companies in like California. And we kind of expanded. Now, we had definitely a lot of improvement that we could make on the campaigns, the format. We should have used Terminus and just done a better job in terms of the cohesiveness of the campaign. But that's a simple way.
Yeah, but that is ABM, right? What you just did was, I mean, that's why I keep saying it's better marketing and sales. It's not, I mean, to use your words, none of this is rocket science. I guarantee, and this is why we wrote a book. The first book that I wrote was called Account-Based Marketing. And 4 years later, it literally says ABM is B2B, because we really wanted to make a point that it actually is B2B. It's not any different. You should be going after figuring out who you want to go. Another concept within that, Sujan, that I think most companies probably are not doing is this idea of tiering accounts, right? Tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1, meaning that, all right, these are our best, these are accounts that are really big deals. If we crush them, it's great for our brand. They're going to take some time, effort, muscle. So we're going to customize the shit out of this stuff. We're going to do a ton of different things to make sure we do. But then tier 3 accounts, these are accounts that it'd be awesome if we can have it. It's great for our business, but we're not going to do the same level of customization between them and them. That is a big idea. And I want people to really kind of put that in, because I think a lot of times we treat every account the same. And that's the mistake that we have been having in a lot of ways in marketing and sales, is we treat everybody the same. Everybody gets the same webinar email, the same ebook, the same stuff. So there is no level. If it doesn't connect with me individually, it's hard. Now, if you create a webinar that just says, this is only for agencies, and if you have 500 people on it, but if you have 50 people on it, you'll be happy with it, because that's who you're selling to. So that's what ABM really is. It's like, don't worry about having 10,000 downloads. Don't worry about having 1 million views. As a matter of fact, let's just talk. Remember, we talked about this example of a company that's in the book called Pramada, where traffic to the website dropped by 70% when they started ABM.
Wow, that sounds horrible.
That sounds horrible. Exactly, right? Just imagine any CEO, CFO, and you're a marketer, I'm a marketer. I'd be like, man, they should be fired because clearly they're not doing anything. So this is a true story. They're actually speaking at the conference about this. The traffic dropped by 70%, especially when they started doing account-based marketing. Well, the reason is, when they went and dug in, is that the traffic they used to get wasn't from the right accounts for the most part. And now that they started for the last year just doing account-based marketing, which means the ads are only getting in front of the accounts they want to go after, they don't have kind of ancillary traffic that doesn't turn into customers. So the traffic dropped, but every single person impression click that they're getting on the website is coming from the accounts they care about. So the revenue grew. So it's like, wow. It's just crazy to think. As a marketer, we're like, wait a minute, more traffic should equal more revenue. But if you're actually doing ABM, you might see some new metrics that will change completely the way you were thinking about it. That traffic dropping by 70% was a right thing for their business in order for the revenue to grow, because they focused on the ones that matter to them.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think marketers and sales folks have to change the metrics that they monitor when doing ABM, because like you said, traffic lead quantity is irrelevant, right? Like quality obviously is very, very important, but you can, with ABM conversion rates or close rates north of 50%, you don't really need that volume, right? There's a couple questions here I want to make sure we ask from the audience here. One is from Eric, who's asking really about how do you what's the line between ABM and being creepy, right? I like being creepy, by the way. Creepy marketing works.
So I'll give you a great example on this one. So I'm not a lover of cupcakes. So it kind of creeps me out, quite honestly. Cupcakes, like the small size of it, it just somehow creeps. I'm a weird guy. But one day I saw that there was this cupcake ad that was following me everywhere I went online. And I was like, man, this is so bad. What's going on? Come to find out, my wife was looking for cupcakes for a birthday party for her kid online using my computer. So the cookie tracking thing worked, and now because I'm on my laptop, I'm seeing cookies everywhere I go. So that becomes annoying. At the same time, when you go, we all have done this, where we would go and look for some stuff and we think it's too expensive, but next day you get an offer in the email or an ad that says 50% off the same thing that you were looking at 2 days ago. Oh, great, I'll go and buy it. So I think it's creepy when it's not personalized.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I feel the creepy is when it's like, well, it's not good for me. It's not great for my business. I don't want people, but I like people to tell me what I want at a price that I can afford all day long. And I think we all do. So I think the creepiness is more in terms of what is the value that you're creating. And I think people would be okay 100% if you show that, you know what, we think we can serve you the best. And because we think we can serve you the best, we're going to make sure that you know that we care for this business, and we're going to do all kinds of personalization to show that this is a business that we really care about, by making an ad of your logo and our logo on our landing page, making an ebook just for your industry so you can read it, creating an event just for you so that you can network with peers in your industry, and we are at that table as well. I think that level of personalization, I'm in for all day long.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if it's not the same. I think one of the things you're saying is, one, the ebook is education, right?
Yes.
Solving problems. I'll give you a concrete example here. At wheniwork.com, where I was head of marketing, we knew our customers, their HR tech software, we knew our customers were first-time entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And we did a lot of research and surveys and talked to customers. And we found out that most first-time entrepreneurs have a hard time hiring, firing, creating some form of operational, some guide to how to handle these employees. So we created a whole template, resource kit, whatever.
Yeah.
And we sent it off. And we used that also to attract. We didn't do full-blown ABM, but we used this to attract business owners. We marketed or advertised to business owners, and we put all this out there because we knew that our customers are first-time business owners. And then, if you're talking about your event, again, so value add, problem, right?
Yeah.
Your event, again, very specific to your audience. Another way to touch point you're inviting them to a peer-to-peer value add as
Yep.
well as them to connect with you. So I think if you were to go think about that example you gave about the ebook, the event, I think there's multiple touch points with, and then there's the, not to mention the personalization on top of that with like the logo and whatnot. Now, it's definitely on the creepier side, right? Like there's no way around it. But we're in the world, in my opinion, we're in the world of personalization. Like this is that era, right? Like when you send an email out, if you using Mailshake or cold email, whatever, if you include something about that person, of course they're going to open it and more likely to open it. Now, if you include their kid's birthday and their address and a picture of them, that's kind of like where I should call the cops, right?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Another example I give you is with Morgan Gillespie, who was a sales rep here. She recently just moved out, and she did in a year, she did over 3,000 one-to-one videos. 3,000 one-to-one videos to different people within the team. So she would do a video for like, hey, Sujan, I wanted to talk. You run this agency. I want to tell you that ABM is great for you because I know XYZ about your company, and I'm also doing a video for a couple of other folks on your team. Then she would go and do another video for Michael on your team and say, Michael, I know you run sales, and I just made a video for Sujan as well. I think, imagine if you and Sujan could actually come up with a tiered account strategy that does X, Y, and Z. And then she would literally do 3 to 5 videos per account. So they all can get a video from her, but it's all directly to them. Her email open rate was about 70%. Right? Because it's all one-to-one. There wasn't anything else. So you talk about creepy and stuff, like 70% open rate, because she always would use a whiteboard with their name written on it with her hand. So people knew she wasn't gimmicking. It's actually a video about you. It wasn't just, Sujan, here's a video I made for you. No. There was a video picture of her with your name on it. So chance of you opening that video is super high. So she would get a 70% open rate on her email, and about, like, if nothing else, she would get a yes or no immediately on a conversation that she's about to have with them. So her win rate, she was the fastest person to move from SDR to AE because of the win rate that she had.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things you mentioned is like just circling I think like the decision maker, right? So you email me, you email my sales guy, and you mention me. You email my CFO and you mention my sales guy and me, like the marketing person, let's call it. Now you're mentioning 3 people. Now, if I were just to hear that in a video, sometimes I could assume that some conversation has been had with the other folks. So it's just more likely to reference that, right? I like to do this when I email the VP of marketing or the CEO. I'm like, hey, if I email the CEO, I'm like, hey, I sent your marketing team like 4 things you can improve on your website. That's just money on the table. I just want to ping you to make sure, because I didn't see it get done. And I guarantee you 2 things happen. They say fuck off, or actually 3 things. That's the negative one. They email me back and say, thanks, I'm on it. Or they start the conversation, or they forward that email to the marketing person, and I get a response from that marketing person. And they're highly emotionally triggered at that point.
Yes.
And usually in a bad way, but not bad intentions, right? You're just making sure that the emails get kind of taken seriously. And if you're providing education, it's really hard to be pissed off about that.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, in that scenario, they might, and it might start on the wrong foot, which obviously is not the intent. But in the case of like the way Morgan was doing, she was transparent. She was doing it all at the same time and saying that, hey, you are one of our top accounts, which is why I'm doing this video. So she was very careful about saying that. And I'm going to send a video to you and your head of sales and head of marketing. She was very transparent about that. So there wasn't any back channeling of any sorts. And please let me know, because once we're done with this, I'm actually going to go reach out to your competitors and go through the same process, because we believe we can truly serve you the best. So she created such a compelling argument, so transparent, put a personal face in front of it, and put their name on it, that it's hard not to have a conversation about that company whenever the executive team is meeting on anything on a daily basis. And I think that's what you're looking for. As a marketer and a salesperson, our number one job is to create conversations enough where they could say, all right, let's just find out what they actually do. And that's it. Then, beyond that, your product and service, all that stuff. But if you're trying to do an outreach, a proactive outreach, almost disruptive outreach, you have to try something that will create some level of urgency in that environment. And that's what this is.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to dig into some other channels. So you said video works very well.
Yes.
Direct mail, we talked about that briefly. You have any examples of direct mail, or maybe even just starting with, like, where does direct mail fit in?
Oh, I think there's a great. I think people are missing out on this they're just trying to do high tech, and Terminus does like one-to-one ads, right? So we obviously recommend that. But if anybody comes to us and say, hey, Terminus, we hear about you, obviously you're an ABM platform, we're going to do ABM, and the first question we would ask them is like, what's your CRM? Are you doing anything else? How's your sales team aligned with your marketing team? Do you have a target list of accounts to go after? So we'll ask all these questions because we know ABM is a strategy, not a tool or a tactic. Terminus is not going to solve anybody's problems if they don't have a strategy. So I will pretty much do not buy Terminus just because you heard this from here, like, oh, they sound like really, no. You have to have an ABM strategy, which means you have to know who you're going after. Now, in a strategy, I feel like marketing has a menu of options, is how I think about it. Email, webinar, direct mail, field events, all these different things. I just look at us as having many of options. And historically, marketing is tasked with, let's just create 3 blogs a week, 1 ebook a month, 2 webinars a month, and an event every quarter that we need to sponsor, right? And marketers go off, do your thing. ABM actually requires you to think opposite of that. You actually come in a meeting and say, here are all the many of options that we have. We might do some of those things, that's okay. But for these 50 accounts that we want to go after, either in target list or pipeline or expand, cross-sell, tell us what we can do. And you start looking at them and saying that, oh, guess what? These 5 of these accounts seems to be in Boston. Let's do an event in Boston because it makes sense. Oh, these are all in different locations. All right, that's fine. Let's just send a direct mail to them because that will get them started. But while this high touch activities are going on, if you can overlay that with high tech, so you have high tech and high touch happening at the same time, again, all we're really trying to do is create conversation. So I feel like it's extremely important to bring that together.
That makes sense. I love it. Yeah, I think that I like the fact that, like, you've identified folks in specific areas, and then you say, let's try this menu option, right?
Right.
You're not saying, I want to do an ad, I want to do an ebook, I want to do direct mail, I want to do a in-person event. It's the opposite way. You're doing it more. Okay.
Yeah, it's literally flipping the funnel. The reason we have the flip funnel problem is because we did all these things, and then some people came in, and then we started qualifying them, and thereby we only found 1% turning into customers. Since you're flipping it, you're starting with the best fit accounts. So you need to know who they are, where they live, what the structure is, what their company size is, what their location is, and then you figure out the engagement tactic that matches those accounts. So you're literally flipping your mindset. And I think that's an organizational change. And that's what I think what we're seeing right now is companies requiring an organizational change. And which is why I'm highly recommending people who are new to account-based marketing, don't start with acquisition, because it's a very uphill battle to fight. There are set standards in your organization. And when you include a big transformation like this, it is hard to win hearts and minds of people if you don't have trust and all that stuff going on. Start with either pipeline velocity or expansion deals, because that's where the money is. And if you can show more money faster, you will get more money faster from your company.
Right, absolutely. And in terms of cross-selling, upselling, it's your customers you have now are the easiest opportunities to sell to, right? They've already bought from you.
Yeah.
Then I think for those folks that are listening that are, heads of sales, they're not the CEO, the founder, decision maker, whoever, the decision maker ultimately, you can use that to prove the channel and like, hey, see how awesome that was? I'm going to do that with the same customer audience, except for they're not customers this time. So you've got traction. I feel like a lot of folks who get turned down, and I tell my team this all the time, it's like, if you're going to tell me a crazy freaking idea, you better have some damn stats to prove it, and you better have success. And that means you have to test this idea somewhere at a macro level. Like, don't say, I want to go boil the ocean. Like, boil some hot water in a pan first and make sure it boils, right?
Yeah. I think a lot of us, we love ideas, and especially if you're marketing and sales, we want to do a whole bunch of things. To your point, I think and nobody ever is actually saying no to you. They're only saying no to a big idea because it's a big change. So to your point, man, I call the word, I say it all the time, experiments. We are going to run an experiment. And if there's one thing people can take away from this, if they want to do ABM, that if you go in your team and say, hey, we're going to do an experiment with one sales rep with his 5 or 6 account or her 5 or 6 accounts, and we're going to do a one pilot thing with them and see what happens. Nobody in the world would care. And that's how you start building programs. And then she or he, when they become successful, they're going to tell the entire sales team, and they're going to then you have the chief revenue officer and the CEO saying, hey, why are we not doing this for the entire organization? What's wrong with your marketing? Oh, great. Oh, I'm sorry. I should be doing that. Great. And then do it. Then if you can let people take credit for it, I think somebody said this, that you can do anything in life.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah. Building that traction and then kind of scaling up and giving credit where it's due, or and pulling that into the motion. One thing I want to go back to, you mentioned was, and I'm going to kind of use some things we talked about in our prep call prior, is you said some people need to be treated like, some people need to get champagne and some people need sparkling water, right? And the whole statement of like, not all deals or leads are treated, or accounts are treated the same. There's tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess, like, how do you go about, obviously that's there. How do you go about creating an ABM strategy for each one? Do you start with like the best possible way and then strip out things, or just walk me through that?
Yeah, I think the way I would use some of the same stuff that we talked about, but I think this is probably going to come to head with all the ideas we just talked about. So this is really good. One is marketing need to stop looking at us as a bunch of activities to do, but just say that we have a menu of options, right? That's part of it. And then with working with sales, you're figuring out, it's super important. If marketing goes and says, we're going to do this thing and we're going to figure out the accounts to go after, you're going to fail 1,000%, like guaranteed. I've seen 1,000+ companies, I've helped them implement, and they will fail miserably because without sales buy-in into it, they're not going to do the follow-up. They're not going to go after it. As a matter of fact, if anybody haven't figured out, here's a question for everybody. What is the title of your salesperson? Account executive, not a lead executive. Thereby, account-based makes sense, right? If you think about it, they're geared to focus on the accounts. So it's important to get them to buy into the accounts you're going to go after, right? You cannot do it on your own. So marketing has a many of options that they can do all the things. You need to get your sales team to rank the accounts that they feel they're good based on the size of the deal or the size of the company that you're selling to and what you know. Together as one team, you have to come up with those accounts. And then it will be very obvious that, oh my goodness, there are a lot of accounts and we can't do all these things to all of them. Great. Now let's figure out how many accounts we need to start going after and what tier, how will you categorize it? Once you start categorizing those, you figure out like, oh my goodness, there are still so many accounts and we can't really do everything to every one account. Then you start figuring out by rep, I want to go after 10 accounts this month or 30 accounts this month. Great. For those accounts, here are the 3 things we can do. So it is a matter of ongoing iterative process that requires sales and marketing to work as one team. I cannot emphasize enough this point that either of the teams working by themselves will completely squash the ultimate dream of marketing and sales working together. It is not alignment at all. I actually hate that word, because alignment means you have these like, hey, if I send a lead, you have to follow by tomorrow morning. And the reason we have this SLAs and all that stuff in place is because there's no trust. and there is no trust because marketing wants to send them leads and they want them to follow, but sales don't care about it because they're focused on their accounts. All of this goes away with this. The reason is sales already said this is an important account for me, and marketing is now giving air cover to my account that I can close this month. They're going to be all over it. They're going to give you a hug. So I think the whole thing really falls into, I'm never going to do everything to everyone. So tell me which accounts you want to go after, and then we're going to create this menu of options on top of it, and that's what the overlay is. And then for the other accounts, we're going to do all the normal things like email, webinars, and stuff, but we're not expecting any greatness from them. We're just going to focus on these X number of accounts.
Gotcha. Okay, so I've got one more big question for you, and I think we'll kind of wrap it at that. Let's talk about. Okay, you've got account-based marketing working. You figured out some tiers. What does a team look like? So you've said the alignment thing, definitely not the thing. I get it, right? It sounds like this is a singular team, right? The account-based team. What is that? What's some roles? Who's in it? How does it work?
That's a great question. Yeah, that's a great question. Typically right now it is. I think it's gonna. I'll share with you in a second where I think it's gonna go in my view. But today, just like marketing automation 10 years ago wasn't a job for anybody. All of a sudden, Pardot, Marketo, everybody came in, and now there's marketing automation specialist and demand gen specialist. So same way, it's an account-based specialist. So Snowflake, an example I just gave you, they have 15 people on their team, on the account-based marketing team, who are account-based marketers. That's their title. Separate from inbound, and part of their role is to figure out what content those accounts need, figure out if they need to do events. So they're almost like, if you're a technology person listening to this, you might get this, which is there's this new role that have emerged in technology that is DevOps, right? Which is like, hey, you can do front end and back end, and we need a full stack developer or something like that, right? And the reason is because it's really hard to have somebody who works on only front end development and somebody back end and then can't put two and two together. It's the same exact evolution that's happening in marketing right now. You no longer need marketers that only can write content but doesn't understand how it drives demand, or only can do events but don't know how essentially that drives pipeline. You need someone who's almost like a program manager who just gets things, who's the generalist in a way, understands all the pieces that work, and be able to say, all right, we're going to take a strategic approach after these accounts. So I think the new role, marketing is the new really highly paid role in marketing, is going to be more of an ABMer, because they're going to be like mini CMOs. Imagine the amount of power they have to walk in a sales team meeting and say, here is which accounts we're going after. Here's what I'm going to do for you. They're going to have keys to the kingdom on it. So in most organizations today, it is the demand gen person who's starting to play that role. I see in the next 2 to 5 years, I can see an org within marketing that is more of an ABMer, and they're more of a generalist who are really responsible for really going after the top tier strategic accounts and trying to help them close or help them win those deals, while the other marketing communications would do all the broad-based marketing and brand marketing.
I love that. Yeah, I think it reminds me a lot of building a growth team, right?
Yeah.
Like 5-7 years ago, over the last 5 years, I would say growth teams have become more popular, where it's a marketer, a product manager, sometimes a developer, a lot of front end, maybe someone from sales or success or support kind of fill in every once in a while, and they go to town. They build within the product. They do micro tools. They just do things that can help grow the company in a more technical aspect, or more technical marketing, I would call it. It's the same thing. Customer success 10 years ago didn't exist really. I'm excited I'm excited for the age of more account-based marketing folks, account-based marketers, whatever you want to call it. And that's awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. Like the alignment, that's not the right word. It's just it's the wrong thing. It's not even two different teams. It is one pod, right? Yeah. It's one team. They're doing a singular mission. So there you have it, guys. That's account-based marketing in a nutshell. I'm sure we can go a lot deeper into a lot of different areas. But that's Sangram here on account-based marketing, and I'll leave a comment here in the show notes with all the links. So don't worry, you'll have all the links. And Sangram, thank you very much for joining.
Pleasure is mine, man. This is a fun thing, and I'm so glad you and the community is interested in this topic.
Awesome, man. All right, take care. Thanks everyone for joining.